Today I'm going to talk about the top 3 lessons learned from one of my favorite shows to watch, Undercover Billionaire. I'm Craig. I'm a former financial coach and jack of all trades who wants to help people learn useful life skills that aren't being taught in most schools. Subscribe to my channel and work to level up our skills. Plus, I'll try to make it interesting. Before I get into this, I have to warn you, there's going to be some spoilers in this video. If you haven't seen this show, I'm going to give you a basic breakdown, then I'll get into the 3 main lessons learned. The first season follows Glenn Stearns, a billionaire from the lending industry who came up with this show. He starts in a small town in Pennsylvania with the goal of creating a business valued at $1 million in 90 days without using any of his resources or contacts. He has to do it all from scratch, starting with only a truck, a phone with no contacts, and $100 cash. He's followed by a camera crew who states they are filming a documentary about aspiring small town entrepreneurs to keep his cover intact. Season 2 is currently on TV and features 3 new successful entrepreneurs: Grant, Monique, and Elaine. All 3 of them are simultaneously attempting to repeat Glenn's challenge in different cities. I'll link to Discovery Plus in the description where you can catch up on episodes you might have missed. I love watching shows like this because they give great insight into how the mind works of a successful entrepreneur. So what are the top 3 lessons learned from Undercover Billionaire? Number 3, cut your housing expenses. In the current season, Grant finds a free RV to live in, Elaine finds a cheap hostel that she can stay at by working on site, and Monique gets assistance from a church and members of the community to let her live for free. In season 1, Glenn lived in his truck for a few days before finding an extremely cheap apartment to rent for the next 3 months. 4 different people, 4 different takes on the same strategy: minimize housing expenses. Something that really stood out was that none of them went out and rented a nice place to stay. None of them. They all knew that housing was one major area they could sacrifice in the short term in order to get ahead in the long run. This makes total sense to me. When I was a financial coach, housing was the most expensive line item in every budget I've ever looked over. In my experience, people looking to save money always seem to focus on cutting the little items, like going out to lunch or a morning coffee. The reality is, focusing on cutting down the big expenses has a much more drastic effect when trying to save. Number 2, you need a few resources to get started: transportation, cell phone, money. All of the entrepreneurs in this show start with a vehicle. This detail is crucial. As someone who worked with people in poverty, I've seen firsthand how having transportation is so critical for having access to opportunities. With a vehicle, you aren't at the mercy of a bus schedule. This gives you more time that you can use working or get some extra sleep or for whatever you need that time for. But time is our most valuable resource because once it's spent, you can never get it back. Another factor about starting with a vehicle is that worst case scenario, the vehicle can be a place to sleep. Then again, many millennials choose to live in their vehicles these days. #van life. Sleeping in a vehicle isn't necessarily the safest option. Monique mentioned in the show how she didn't think it was worth risking her safety to sleep in a car, and I can't blame her at all for that. So far, in order to stand a chance at being successful, we need an inexpensive place to live and a vehicle to get around town. A cell phone is also given to all of the participants. These days, having a smartphone basically gives you a computer in your pocket, which can be used for a multitude of different things. Some uses that were demonstrated in the show were searching for job postings, sending emails to contact people about opportunities, and access to social media for finding information about help in the local area. The last resource they were given was some petty cash to start with. $100 doesn't go very far in today's economy, but it paid for their gas to drive around town while they looked for opportunities and some food to eat until they got another form of income established. To recap, they were given a functional vehicle with a full tank of gas, a smartphone, and $100 cash. Getting access to these things seems fairly reasonable to the average American. Number 1, find people that can help you and ask for help. This is probably the most important step. Technically, this step can help someone without resources get the items from the previous 2 steps. All the people in this show are super wealthy, and they were not too prideful to go and ask for help. Think about that for a second. How different is that mentality than the average American who feels like they have to make it on their own? These are successful people, and they went straight for help. None of them tried to do it on their own first. I feel like they're giving us regular people a blueprint here. They're basically saying, don't waste time trying to do it on your own. Go find your tribe and rely on them to pull you through those initial stages. This is an area I still struggle with myself. I've been burned by people in the past whom I've trusted, specifically in situations where money was involved. I've only had a few interactions where this wasn't the case. The fact that there is a camera crew present definitely changes this dynamic. I think people on the show are on their best behavior because they don't want a chance wrecking their reputation on national TV. That being said, there are people out there who live to help others. That is their life's purpose, and they get so much fulfillment out of that. So for those who are feeling alone, like there's no one out there to help them, I'd say just keep looking, because I think you just haven't found them yet. The great news is we have the internet, and the internet is a really great place for finding other like-minded thinkers or kind-hearted people that want to help. GoFundMe, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, even just Facebook help groups are set up to help people find communities and support. So what were your major takeaways from the show? Let me know in the comments below. Modeling behaviors from successful people and learning from their mistakes is one of the key ways I think we can get ahead in this life. In the next video, we'll add some additional financial hacks and tips not covered on the Undercover Billionaire show, but that I find just as helpful in navigating the real world.